Hello, my beautiful stars. Welcome back to Path of Spirals Tarot. My name is Claire. If you're new around here, I read cards. I read tarot. I read oracles. Sometimes I'll be reading the Uno cards my kids are playing with. You never know. You can really divinate with any old thing. I am a Reiki practitioner. I do shamanic journeying. I have been a life coach for over a decade. I've been places. I've done things. I've seen things. I've lived a life. And I'm here to share my expertises with you on the internet. And all you gotta do is pick a group. We got our little ghost, our little metallic ghost. We have a sailboat, and we have a squiggle. But it's not just any squiggle. It could be a frequency. It could be a fancy pasta. You choose. And today we're doing a reading that's going to be primarily 2 cards using Oracle. We're going to use the Archetypes Oracle today from Kim Kranz, the Archetypes, a deck I'm very comfortable with, and I find it very satisfying to do readings of this nature. And it's going to be simple enough. We're going to do a card that represents something you should be having less of and something you should be having more of energetically. And if we want to clarify, we can pull an extra card or 2. Without further ado, we're going to do our little ghosties in group 1. We'll put our sailboat and our fancy pasta over there and pull these out. Now, I call in God's mercy, God, Gus, Allah, Hashem, Source, whatever energies you connect with. We're very inclusive here. Spiritual autonomy is exceedingly important to me, and I respect your practice. I respect how you connect. If it's an ongoing process of learning what that is, maybe my videos can help you. We call in angels, archangels, spirit guides, ancestors, highest timelines, and we put a crystalline dome over the reading today to keep good energy in, keep the sacredness flowing, and to keep bad energy out. Okay, so I admittedly find these pretty difficult to shuffle, so I thought maybe, what if we just did a little bit of that? Okay, what does the ghost in group 1 need less of? Or should we do more? Let's do more of and then less of. More of this, less of that. That feels more natural. A more card. I see the more card. More of whatever this card represents. Less of whatever this card, that card represents. Okay. More of connecting to spirit and just bridging in general. Less of the Starborn. Okay, well, 2 beautiful cards. I pull these pretty often enough for myself and for others in different readings. Now the bridge represents, like the big emphasis is that bridges can happen anywhere, but they can only happen meaningfully if the bridge is built with love and really good intentions. Now the bridge can represent lateral bridge building. That can be networking, making a new friend, deepening an existing relationship. But there's also a big emphasis on vertically building bridges, and that would be within different realms spiritually. Now, if you're into shamanic journeying, there are different types of realms, like under realms, over realms, non-ordinary parallel realities to this one that you can traverse if you do like shamanic journeying with drumming. That's a big thing I'm into. Sitting in meditation, doing tritaka, candle gazing. There's like a billion ways to build bridges. And I'm sure many of you esoteric baddies have other ways in which you can connect and build bridges. But this card is emphasizing that you should do more of that and less of just being the Starborn. So the shadow side of this, I think, would be like a stagnation. So the Starborn is a fractal of the eternal child / inner child archetype. But the Starborn represents fated destiny and things that you cannot avoid. So if it's saying you need to have less of this, I feel like it's more saying you know that you have a fated life, and that maybe you stand out from a crowd, but you need to not just sit in that realization. You need to build bridges. You need to act on it. So there's a very special magical energy here that I feel complements our little ghosty quite well. If we open up the Kim Kranz guidebook and we look up the Starborn, it's the third of the self archetypes. So it's very much at the front here after the mother and father. And I think it comes before the eternal child. Yeah. So this represents not just any child, but the divine child, star child, or the destined. So when it's in dark, I want to focus more on the dark side of this. When it's dark, there's a feeling of misalignment, loss of longing for something. Okay, so we want to have less of that, a lack of alignment. And that would be through bridging. Now, what comes to mind for me when I think anecdotally, because I was pulling the bridge card before I started my channel and before I started really leaning into like my woo side. I mean, I've always been woo, but like actually putting myself on the internet to do the woo, I was pulling this card constantly. And when I had this card coming up, I felt like my spiritual gifts were blossoming, but they weren't like fully online. And even now, as I do these readings, I still feel, and like this is probably your whole life as you enter from like maiden, mother, crone, if you're a woman, or identify with that, that is an evolution that will happen your whole life, and new things will come to you. The veil will thin. You'll get more in touch with the subtleties of other dimensions as you age. It can feel like that doesn't make sense if you're a little bit younger, or if you have yet to have gone through certain spiritual initiations, which would be big major life transitions, births, deaths, birthdays, death days, anniversaries, even big cosmological shifts. Sometimes those things just have to happen before you can deepen a connection to this bridge energy. Okay, so Spirit wants you to stop focusing on how you don't feel in alignment and says there's a solution here, but you have to behave and move a little differently. You know what I mean? Now, the Starborn in and of itself says like you're here to do something special. And if you're feeling like you're not in alignment, it means you're not listening to the thing that makes you special. And as the world shifts, as we see old systems fall down, we have to doula ourselves as a collective into a new life. What do we want the new world to look like? We certainly want more people that feel in alignment. We want more people that are vertically spiritually connected. We want people that are in touch with their spiritual gifts, that are thriving, that are building kind of a new world, right? That is what we would like to see. We're watching old systems die off, and they're dying off really fast. So imagine that the new world is going to require your energy in a way that maybe it wasn't compatible with before. So like the shadow side of the Starborn is like the ugly duckling. It's like, I don't feel compatible with this world. The people around me, I don't feel like I fit in. I've had coaching clients that are just like, I feel like my whole thing, my whole life is that I just didn't connect with anybody, basically. I just didn't understand how people moved through the world the way that they did. I felt isolated, even though I pretended to look a certain way, but there was an outer facing reality and an inner reality. And the inner reality is the truer reality, right? So see how the egg is cracking open, but it's not fully open yet. So the way you crack that open is by telling yourself that you are safe to navigate your gifts and these energies. Because part of it too is that if you've been feeling out of alignment, that was from a place of survival and ancestral discernment passed down onto you, because there is a level of danger in sharing spiritual gifts. There are moments where people who light up a room end up dead. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's like the ultimate manifestation of it. Truth tellers, accuracy tellers, like that is a type of energy that for so long has had to be kind of veiled. It's had to be slightly hidden, or it's had to be made fun of. But we're entering a time where people don't really want to mince words anymore, and they want to know what will help bring around a change, because there's so much like pain in the world right now. And this is the point where you start asking yourself, how can you show up in the world and bridge these connections with this energy? Because here's the thing, you will just suffer, and you'll suffer exponentially worse every year that goes by that you resist who you naturally are. Now is the time to embrace who you are, what gifts you have, the depth that you bring, the magic that is around you, the arcane energies that are revisiting and trying to build this world up to something worth living for. So if you felt out of alignment, it's not because you're out of alignment naturally. It's because the environment you've lived in has forced you to be out of alignment in order to survive until a later time. But guess what? The time is here now. It's now. Okay? It's now. Beautiful cards. We love to see you be less scattered and more in formation with what you have to offer, because I'm sure it's amazing. All of the spiritual people I've come across and good friends, just good mentors of mine, everybody has such a beautiful, different flavor with what they bring to life and how they can show us our blind spots. So just imagine if everybody in the world like showed up like that. Chef's kiss. Sometimes this world really feels like it's just for the rats. But we need to remember there's not just rats on this earth, okay? There are beautiful energies afoot, but they need to be synthesized by the people. So we cannot live in fear, in hopelessness, in lower frequencies. We have to continue to show up in high frequencies and set the stage and say we're not going to settle for anything less than that, right? We got to bridge to that stage. And that's why we're here right now. Late millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, the people that are coming, the new energies, that is what we're being asked to do. Because if we don't, then the world is going to look like the dark times, the dark medieval times, probably worse than that. So it's a pivotal moment in history. We have to stop repeating those loops, build new bridges, and recognize our energy, the energies that are visiting us. We have to learn how to work with them, not against them, and not suppress them. Because if everybody suppresses themselves, then the rats win. Okay? I don't want to be around to see that. All right, that's group 1's reading. Okay, all right, group 2. We have our little sailboat. I keep thinking about that song, come sail away, come sail away, come sail away with me. Yes. We're going to pull our cards, stretch them across here. These cards are hard to shuffle and there's so many, it's kind of hard to pick them. Sometimes I feel like there's just cards I just never pick because they're always just behind another card I always do pick. But we're going to choose a card about what you need more of in your life and then what you should have less of. So already I'm seeing more, less, this one here. There. Look at our ghost size, group 1. Okay, group 1, you need more of the eternal child. We just pulled the starborn child. Okay, this is very interesting. We just pulled the card that comes before this for group 1. It's a very similar energy, a little different, but it's about the inner child archetype. More child play, inner child play, and less of the judge. Less judgment. I feel like you could already tell me what this reading is about, right? So these are both selves, much different energy. The inner child has the sun inside of them, rainbows, playing with their hands, but then we have the judge. And obviously this can also be kind of reflective of the judgment card in the major arcana of regular tarot. But there's different vibes here for sure. It's a lot more black and white. It's a lot more harsh in its shadow side. The judge is unforgiving. And when we say that we need less of the judge energy, less of judgmental energy, and more of play energy, it's telling me that group 2 needs to be reminded about the power of the archetypes of the inner child, the eternal child. So in Jungian psychology, if you don't know much about that, maybe you do, some of the more important archetypes that exist inside of our mind's eye have to deal with parental and child functions, whereby we have a mother inside of us, we have a father inside of us, we have a child inside of us. So the eternal child would be this. Now, both the maternal and paternal archetypical functions, they can show up as like a harsh voice inside of us. These are functions that serve to protect us in this world and make sure that we don't get into too much danger. Whereas the eternal child is eternally rebellious, constantly present, always evading authority, and doesn't really understand judgment, because judgment is for like trying to have judgment and discernment about a situation isn't something that like kids really are all that tuned into, because it's not a skill they need until they get older and life gets messier and they get further away from that sort of pure hearted nature of things. But as we continue to age and these other parental archetypical forces start to take more center stage in the psyche, then this energy, the judge, the harshness, like the mallet coming down on things, whether that can be perfectionism, executive dysfunction, like not starting something without even trying, those energies come very quickly and smother the eternal child. Now, the eternal child, it doesn't ever get fully suppressed, but it will come out sideways. This can look like regression. This can look like maladaptive daydreaming. You can feel like there's a part of you that's almost cut off from the rest of you that you can visualize as not being fully available, or yet like out of reach and not fully easy to rein in. It can also come out as like weird proclivities, weird interests, sometimes dangerous interests, or like high impulsivity in certain people where they just like do high stakes things. Being the black sheep, being secretive, being self-censoring. Sometimes the eternal child gets a little bit like wounded, and the woundedness comes off as being like a teenager in your mind's eye. So if you have a really hard time envisioning what your eternal child looks like, but it's easier for you to visualize a teenager, it's because your inner child is wounded and it is trying to take on an archetype that's a little bit more mature than it actually is. But it's actually causes more suffering and more pain for that individual because the child's meant to remain a child. Now, for another, all of your power to be intuitive, psychic, creative, synchronistic, in good flow with the world around you requires you to accept and fully embrace your inner child. If you don't do it, you're not gonna get far. You will repeat old loops. You will be chronically dissatisfied. It will fuel those archetypes of mother and father in your brain more than ever. You'll be even harsher, and it's just a vicious cycle that repeats and repeats. So you need to kind of cut out these voices and let her speak. Like, you need to do some shadow work, I think, and visualizations with your inner child. There are plenty of shadow work worksheets online. I'm planning on creating also different shadow work stuff for this channel because we end up talking about it so much here. But anyways, I mean, you can just like look it up. Like, what dimension of life do you need shadow work done in? Like, do you need shadow work done based on childhood wounds, career wounds, relationship wounds, self-worth? You know what I mean? Like, there's like long lists, and my advice is any shadow work you find, like, scan the list of those questions that are being asked that prompt you to do shadow work and see which ones feel very painful to even think about for a second. The ones that you want to avoid the most are the ones you should probably excavate like a lot. And the more you do that, the more you signal to your subconscious that it is safe to release the judgment, the shame, lower vibrational frequencies that are keeping you trapped inside of your own little matrix. And then on another note, you can also do visualization exercises with your inner child. Like when you're trying to fall asleep at night, visualize. You can do shamanic journeying with your inner child if you're into that or you know anything about that. Or you can journal and just try to sit and visualize what you want what does your inner child want? Like my inner child used to be in a cage. And it looked very disinterested, like it would just kind of turn away from me. Or sometimes it would slip out of the cage and run through the forest, and you could never get a handle on it. Like before I started doing the work I'm doing now, and I was always kind of evading myself of the proper legacy work I meant to be doing here, my inner child was never available and never listening to me. And it was like my inner parental archetypes were wasting their breath. Wasting their breath. And my inner parental archetypes, especially my mother archetype, was like Miss Trunchbull, and she wanted to throw my little child in the chokey. Like, can you imagine like how damaging that is for like your nervous system, for your psyche, to have an archetype inside of you that's constantly barking at your inner child that literally has done nothing wrong. They're just trying to exist. They're just trying to be the way that you were when you were born. And it's the chafe of time and aging that has made you fall out of alignment with your natural inclinations to be in touch with this. And that's not the inner child's fault. That is society's fault. Those are external factors' fault. That is a misdirection of your perceptions, right? So we need to what would it be like to only experience this? No judgment, no fear of anything, just being the eternal child. Then you'd be sailing a boat on a on a less rough seas. I think that's what that's all about. So that's what I have for group 2. All right, group 3. Fancy pasta. My squiggle. It's the double slit experiment. Collapse wave function. Before the wave collapsed. It's time to shuffle these cards a little bit and figure out what you need more and less of. We have some very satisfying readings for group 1 and group 2, so I'm sure these cards are not going to disappoint with you. Since they're impassably hard to shuffle, we're going to choose a card that you need more of. Yep. And a card that represents what you need less of. I feel like it's hiding somewhere in here. Yes. More of this, less of that. Kind of like these readings, you know? Less is more sometimes. You can get a lot out of just 1 or 2 cards. A Celtic Cross is great too, if you really want to survey the whole situation. But sometimes keeping it simple keeps us less overwhelmed. You need more of the cave and less of the self. Okay, so the cave represents the heart. Okay, the self in its gift side represents the parts of you that are unique and individual, but the other sides are the parts of you that are based in ego and logic brain and linear time. The cave is more about existing outside of time and being rewarded for it. Now I'm actually going to tell you a story from the Quran because it's very relevant. It's probably the most powerful story we have mythically about the power of the cave and what could it teach anybody. Okay, so there is a story about sometime, all time, no time, long, long ago, and I'm paraphrasing this story. Okay, so bear with me here. There were individuals who at their time, some long time ago, who believed in God but lived in a community where they would be prosecuted or exiled for believing what they believed. They were what you might call a Hanif, like they believed in the oneness of God. And at that time, that was a really big no-no. And so they prayed to God and just said, we don't want to be persecuted because we believe in God. And they left their community and found a cave. And then they went inside the cave. And they sat in the cave. I think they brought a dog too. And as they sat in the cave, they were there what felt like not that long of a time. And when they went into the cave, they had some money with them, and that money was money from their then times. Okay, so it's important we say they had a specific type of currency with them. Now they exited the cave, and when they started walking back, they realized things were vastly different than when they entered. It was a literal different time. The currency that they had was dated. They couldn't use it anymore. They were in there for a long time outside of the world. Okay, but they came out at a time where they would not be persecuted for believing in God. They got to exist outside of time and they were rewarded for it. They went to the cave. They went to the cave because they listened to their hearts. They tried to do things with the right intentions, and they were granted a sort of free pass from the physical realm's suffering, right? Now, the cave represents the heart. The heart can be seen as the seat of knowledge. So these cards are asking you to come back to this specific energy, to find that more timeless part of yourself and listen to your heart, listen to your intuition. Now, in Sufism, which would be the mystical dimension of Islam, there is a term called tasawwuf, and I think every single spiritual person should learn about that. It is about the purification of the heart. If the heart is the seat of knowledge, purifying it will mean your knowledge is not distorted. You will have good discernment, and it will also keep the ego, the self, from taking up too much space. Tasawwuf can be done through prayer, through charity, through cleaning your house, through protections. Also think about like mystical people or witches, warding, having good intentions, doing shadow work. Like for example, really, really good mystics and really powerful witches like as well. They do these things. Tasawwuf is just built in. like, and you are unstoppable, and like it's also its own type of ward and protection when you have a purified heart, because then you are in alignment with source. Okay, so that needs to be more of what's happening in your life. You need to start connecting with that more and less of the self. Okay, now the self is an important part of being on earth. You are who you are. But this card, when it gets to take center stage and build up your whole reality, then you're too outward facing, you're too much looking in logic, sophist thinking, in disbelief, and not really in worship of anything beyond what your eyes can see. And that's super dangerous and causes tons of suffering for people from a spiritual perspective. So shifting your gaze to something more vertical, higher, being more spiritually connected is what you need. You need to be out of your mind so you don't stay out of your mind and more into your heart. Now, if there's anything else we could say about the self, so out of all of the different kind of cards here, a big chunk of them are called the selves. And let me see. I think I'm going in the wrong direction. You literally have a self card that's called the self. The selfiest self that ever self. Okay. Well, where is it? Hello? The animal? No, that's XIX. Am I tripping? Okay, girls, we're going to go to the front here. The self. Oh, it's one of the last ones. The shadow, the self, and the one are the last of these cards. Okay, 119. Sorry, guys. The self is the soul, the witness, and the watcher. In its shadow, it's disjointed, fatigued, diffused energy and purpose. So it's the prism that allows the spectrum of our personalities to radiate. It doesn't judge, prohibit, suppress, or oppress any of its parts, as it lovingly knows that all aspects have a time and place and leads us to experience a full breadth of life's offerings. The self is a central abiding container, the awareness of the infinite universe of possibilities. When this card appears, it's a call to step back into witness consciousness, to observe yourself navigating the world. Ask yourself, am I the stew or am I the chef? In most situations, our ego draws us into the cauldron where we swirl, spin, and smolder in chaos. Yet the self is a graceful culinary dancer, watching, waiting, observing as the spectrum of ingredients becomes the flavor of our life. Look in the mirror for 30 seconds or more. Attempt to see the you behind the you. If this card is perplexing for you, you're on the right track. It challenges us to expand our sense of identity beyond the little self, and the ego resists such movement. So yeah, I'll definitely read this as like the little self, the ego is like the shadow side of that. Because obviously having a self and being who you are, the way that you look with your name, your culture, like that serves its perfect purpose and its specific flavor and lens for navigating life while you're alive. And there's nothing to demonize about that. But this energy, when it runs amok and it's too dense and too stagnant and too selfie, is it only reaps pain and hardship for us that could be prevented if we're being honest. So more cave, less self for group 3. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Path of Spirals Tarot today. You'll find me here 5 days a week. My name is Claire. I do shorts on Tuesdays and Thursdays and long-form videos on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if you enjoyed this video and you think it could resonate with somebody, please feel free to share. Comment down below which group you chose and what you resonated with. And please do subscribe if you'd like to see more videos in the future. Thanks so much. Bye.